Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Allie and this is the third part of my Quilting 101 series. So last time we talked about how all of our teeny tiny pieces actually have to kind of come together. So we started off by sewing these squares, right? So we have our diagonal and then we have 1 yellow and 3 green. So the next thing that we have to do is basically we have to get this square, okay, to flip out like this. So all of our corners that we currently have, you can see it from the back side here, all of our corners that we currently have, okay, we're basically almost like replacing them, right, with these other colors. So we're going to use some of the tools that I mentioned in the first episode, things like the rotary cutter, the mat, the ruler, as well as the steam iron to make this happen. So we'll talk about that today, and then if we have time, we'll go over how these squares actually start to come together to form the larger blocks as well. Okay, so you guys might remember these things, but just in case you don't, this is our cutting mat, this is our clear acrylic ruler, okay, and most importantly here you can see that it has numbers and it has little tick marks here too for 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 1/2 inch, and stuff like that. And then we have our actual rotary cutter right here, okay? And remember, this thing has a safety feature on the back, which I am now going to flip off. So right here in the middle means that this thing is not going to move out of the way. I'm going to flip it over here, okay, to the left. And then that means that we can actually push down the guard to get the blade to come out, okay? And remember here too, this thing is called a rotary cutter because the blade is perfectly circular. So there is no part of this metal piece right here that is safe to touch, okay? It's all one sharp edge. Great for cutting, not so good for our fingers, right? So let's be careful. Okay, so what we have to do basically is we're gonna have to get rid of this excess here. If you've done garment sewing, for example, this is kind of like clipping your corners to then flip something out like a pocket or something. You're getting the extra fabric out of there so you have a really nice line. That's the same thing here. If we tried to keep all of this fabric on here, I'm gonna try and arrange it so you can see it. There we go. So if we tried to keep all of it on there, you would see that it can bulk up fairly quickly, right? So we want to try and get this other stuff out of the way. We just don't need it. So what our pattern, of course, recommends, as a reminder too, just in case you don't remember, I am working on the Mother's Day bouquet from Sweet Celebrations, okay? This is available on Overdrive. So that pattern and most of the other quilt block patterns that you're going to find out there call for 1/4 inch seam, okay? So as a visual, that's one of these little stripes right here. That's this first tick mark. So I have to cut so that there's only 1/4 inch of fabric left on this side of my block here, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I actually have my mat folded in half because that way it's a little easier to handle. So one of the handy features of my mat is that it has these beautiful diagonal lines that are going to make this a lot easier. So what I'm actually going to do is line this guy up. So you can see how I'm kind of doing it. So I've matched it up to the grid and I've made it so this diagonal line is actually running right through my block too. All of this helps to make it easier. Remember that if you only have a pencil and a ruler, this does not exclude you from quilting. You can still quilt with this, okay? Okay, so I have my line right where my stitching is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it down, right? Now I'm actually gonna measure what 1/4 inch looks like. It's a little tough to see, but I have lined up the 1/4 inch tick mark right here with my line of stitching. So now there's only 1/4 inch left, okay, and everything else that isn't under the ruler can come away. I can use some of these other grid lines too, and I can really make it like super, super accurate by lining up that 1/4 inch line down here and up here with the rest of that diagonal line too. So it's just kind of a nice way to make it all much more even. Okay, blade side goes up against this clear plastic ruler. Okay, and I'm pushing, pushing, and roll. So now, ta-da, easy peasy. We're going to repeat the same thing for all 4 corners. It is 1/4 inch seam allowance for every single other corner, okay? And that includes all of the rest of the blocks that I have done. So let me speed it up a little bit and I will cut the rest of these corners. Okay, so this is all done. You can see that it's a really even edge. There might be a little bit of unevenness, but it's so negligible that it's okay. So we're done with the rotary cutter for right now, so I'll flip it back toward the middle, okay? Please do not forget to do this. We do not want to cut ourselves on this thing. So now what we have to do is make it not look like a stop sign. We don't want the stop sign look. We want it to flip out like this. How we're going to do that is by steaming this open with an iron pressing. Okay, we're going to press it open so it stays how we need it to stay. So let's head over to the ironing board now. Okay, so now we are here. This is my very, very colorful ironing board cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to open these little guys up. Okay, so with a 1/4 inch, we have a lot less fabric to worry about, but it's still really important that we get it flat. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to open it up a little bit. And I'm going to try and hold this down and kind of smush it with my fingers to make sure it's going to stay open long enough for me to get my iron on there. So this is something too where I will advise you to please be very careful. Okay, I do not want anyone burning themselves on account of trying out quilting for the first time. So they're pressed open. That is the lovely sound of steam. Holy cannoli, look at how well that's staying open. Okay. All right. So that's it. That's literally the whole pressing method. I'm sorry that my camera's a little bit wobbly here. I definitely have it set up on my ironing board too. But yeah, that's that process, and we'll speed it up again and I'll do this to the rest of the 4 corners here, okay? Okay, so hopefully that all made sense. Once again, I want to emphasize that quilting is not, how do I put this best? Quilting is not exclusive of you if you don't have the right tools, okay? So even though I have stuff to make it easier on me to actually do quilting, you can technically do this with a pencil, a pair of scissors, a ruler, and like a hot thing to put on your fabric, okay? There are going to be a lot of different tools and like bits and bobs and gadgets out there that you can try to get in order to make this easier, but really, really, really please know that anybody can do this, okay? As long as you have fabric, really. So just to make that very, very clear. Okay, so this time too, remember that we talked about clear, like trimming, okay? We talked about cutting it down to that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we also talked about the pressing as well. So you will probably have seen, hopefully you noticed the clouds of steam that were coming off of my iron. So this is something that you can do too, even if you just have like a spray bottle and like a regular, just plain hot iron, that's fine too, that'll work. But the important thing is that that hot water, that heat, both of those things help your fabric lay flatter because it forces the fibers to relax. So with those two things though, that's what you have to do to every single one of these squares that you are getting ready, okay? So remember, one more time, you're gonna have your piece of fabric. Now, you'll notice too, not on the back side, all of this stuff is in the front. You have 3 squares sewn corner to corner up in these corners. Then you slice off the extra and you flip it out. So you're going to end up with a really, really neat thing like at the end of the ironing portion of this video. Okay, so that's it for right now. But next time we're actually going to start putting these blocks together. We didn't quite have enough time for right now, but next time it's going to be really cool because now we'll actually start to see the flower shape appear. Okay? Okay. thank you very much again for joining me. Please be sure to check out dclibrary.org/library@home for ebooks, audiobooks, puzzles, games, and some really neat resources too. This is actually a quick shout out to one of my favorite resources, RB Digital. So if you were curious about the chaining technique to sew these little squares together, that came out of American Quilting, one of the quilting magazines in RB Digital. Okay, so there are a couple on there. Definitely check them out because there's more tips and tricks in there. Okay, digital resources, dclibrary.org/library@home. Okay, all right. Thank you very much once again, and I will see you guys next time.